Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 7, and this is going to be my review for Episode 3 for this season, otherwise entitled Mother, but it's also really what was meant to be the Season 6 finale, so yeah, it's the finale, I guess, of the Mirror Master stuff. But of course, spoiler alert, before we get into this video, I'm going to be talking about everything that happened and all of that, so if you've not watched it, go away, then come back later on. But if you are continuing on, you've watched the episode, why don't you let me know your various thoughts, opinions, theories, everything like that in the comments section down below. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to drop a like on it to show support. And yeah. But of course, last episode, we had like that Barry with no emotion due to the, the artificial speed force and everything like that. Iris gets out of the Mirrorverse finally. Eva is exposed to the public, which causes her to act faster and in like a different manner. But Barry does destroy the fusion sphere, so that was only around for one episode. And speaking about only being around for one episode, at least for now, we do have the OG Wells being reborn. And it does seem that he was born at the time he died, based off what was said in this episode. But at the same time, I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk about it. But the episode does pick up right where we left off, which you usually get between the second last episode of a season and the finale. And because this was meant to be the finale, they sort of do the same thing. And we have Team Flash coming to, or at least everyone apart from Barry, so Cisco, Frost, Allegra, and they find Barry back to normal. However, Iris is on her way to Yeatsville, aka dying. Now, one thing that was clear in this episode, I'm pretty sure everyone I saw that was interacting with me on Twitter while watching said that the episode felt very sloppy. And yes, compared to the previous two episodes, this wasn't going to win any writing awards compared to them. It wasn't the best written episode, which is weird because I think the showrunner, Eric Wallace, wrote it, but usually they write the finale. I think he co-wrote it with someone. But yeah, it does feel like this episode was two episodes smushed into one. And while that takes away from elements of the story where you could have spent more time with them or just, made them, more cleaned out, if that makes sense, I understand they just wanted to move on from season 6, and this is the finale for season 6. They just want to jump into season 7, so I can understand them. They're just sort of rushing this. However, we had to deal with a fairly poorly executed episode, in my opinion. You might disagree, but most people from what I saw online, at least on Twitter and stuff, were sort of in agreement with that. But we did still have some cool stuff happen, so, bit of both. Some bad stuff, some good stuff. But anyway, we have Iris having to they have to Team Flash have to keep Iris's brain under this sort of form of control, if you want to call it, because, out of, her being out of whack with the real world due to the Mirrorverse and stuff like that. So she's still connected to that. It's similar to Eva when we saw her, which was last season, I guess, and her needing that, the suit she wears, but also that capsule thing that she was sleeping in. So Iris doesn't have that. So that's what Team Flash sort of has to do with her. But Barry is against the artificial speed force, which I'm not too surprised, and I don't think anyone would really be surprised if he wasn't for, reigniting it, because we saw what it did. It turned him into a completely different person. It would have been an error going back to that. So if the real speed force is dead to Barry, so is the Flash, and we sort of had that signaling moment, you want to call it, where he puts down the Flash ring on the counter. Now, Sue is an aspect of this episode. She's not in a ridiculous amount of it. I think she's in 4 scenes in total anyway. But we have her parents coming to CCPD, which I thought was weird, but Sue's there as well in disguise with one of the masks. We do find out that Ralph and her are meant to be laying low, which we knew. But Ralph is actually out following a lead, and she tells Joe that they're not my parents, they're not my parents, which Joe agrees with because he's just been getting calls all day because there's just been many calls from people saying that family and friends around them have been acting really strange and unlike themselves. And it's at that moment we get those silver arms, which creep the hell out of me. I think it was Chester P. Runk who refers to them as the Terminator arms, you know what I mean? Very weird. Now, how they handle Ralph in particular in this episode, which we'll eventually get to in discussion, was very weird. But they were just trying to set up, I guess, Sue coming back later in the season if needed. But I don't know how often we're going to see her. They said she's going to be a part of this season and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be counting on her in more than 3 or 4 episodes. And I don't think we'll see her too much. But we do find out that Eva actually isn't just accessing people through mirrors now, as her name, of Mirror Master would suggest. It's any reflective surface. So darkness is the key. However, that doesn't necessarily work because Barry's staring into a window in the darkness with the blinds down and it's still reflecting him. So he still gets taken in and he's actually dragged into the Mirrorverse by Eva. Now, Eva's explaining that she's transferring worlds pretty much. That's probably the best way to word it. While also making Barry question himself as a hero, which, maybe don't, wind up your hero so much, Eva, because it might be or your opposition, because it might be your downfall. The only thing I sort of question around this, and I think this sort of ties into like the fact that they smushed 2 episodes together by the looks of it, and it ended up with some dodgy writing. Why didn't Team Flash question Barry when he came back as to whether he was actually Barry or not? Like, I was sort of waiting for them to do that. It never happened. Was I the only one that thought that up, or was there a reason that they knew it was Barry straight away? Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. But we do have original Harrison Wells appear in front of Barry, and he just like teleports in, like with the green particles, like we saw at the end of last episode when we saw him get reborn. And he sort of explains like all the worlds were destroyed due to this fusion sphere incident, and this original Wells from this Earth wasn't a part of that, so everything sort of combined, what do you want to call it now? But he does have their memories. Like, he remembers Allegra when Allegra comes in. Like, he's not Nash, but he remembers her as Allegra. Now, when he said Allegra, at first I was like, wait, does he know an Allegra from the past or something like that? But it's just, no, he had the memories. And I did find it funny how the show even tried to make fun of like trying to explain this Wells being here now. Like, they didn't even bother properly explaining it on that like little board thing, just because they know it's confusing. Another weird part of the episode, like this episode just has some weird parts in it. Another one was like the melted Ralph, like or microwave Ralph, or like mashed potato Ralph. There was a couple of different things I saw on social media in regards to how people were describing him. I'm just going to call it melted Ralph because he had burns. Weird. And we'll just move on from that until we need to talk about the ending with him. But just weird. Now, we do learn that Iris is actually the key to getting Barry's speed back, and that it won't be artificial anymore. It'll be like a more natural connection to the Speed Force, which is something we talked about before the season started, due to some trailers and them showing that spark, the blue spark, which we had seen a couple of times in, I think, just specifically season 1. Now, Iris does ignite the fusion sphere, and I do wonder whether there is any consequences due to this, which had been teased by Eric Wallace, or if they're more just consequences due to her connection to the Mirrorverse, because they sort of say like there's no issues now because she's disconnected and everything like that. But Eric Wallace has said there's some consequences and everything like that. So is it due to her powering the fusion sphere? Is she at fault due to it, or is it something to do with the Mirrorverse? I guess we'll have to find out, but that's coming from Eric Wallace's mouth himself. Now, Joe almost gets tempted into like submitting to the Mirrorverse. I think this was just to have them two on screen and sort of just to cut back to the CCPD. I don't think it really added too much to the plot, to be completely honest, so no real point talking about it too much. Now, that fight scene with OG Team Flash, it was cool to see like Frost vibe, or new vibe if you want to call him, and the Flash going against Eva and her clone, so that was fairly cool. Not too sure about the music. It was okay at the beginning, but the music just went through the whole scene. I was like, do we have to? But I don't know, maybe it was easier because of like sounds and everything like that and voices. Maybe it's easier to just have the whole song go on there. And I've never heard the song before, so I highly doubt they had to pay too much to use it. So maybe it was the smarter choice just creatively for them to do it. Maybe it's just easier. But I did like the part where Barry sort of like, I think he's on the roof and he jumps up and all the clones are around him. And he does like that lightning spiral sort of thing. It's like a lightning tornado, but shooting stuff out, almost like a machine gun. I don't know what you'd call it. I'm going to call it lightning spiral sort of thing, because that's the way I described it first. But I thought that was really, really cool. Now, Iris does get mirror powers, which we assume she'd get just due to this exposure, but also Eva's transference, if you want to call it, into this world, into the real world. Obviously, it's temporary. But Eva gets talked into stopping her reign of terror, if you want to call it, but can't stop the clones because there's too many and they're too powerful. But with the help of Barry and Iris, she's able to stop them. Now, I was wondering whether there would be some, people that, some fatalities, if you want to call it, due to what Eva's done. But it seems that all the people who were taken into the Mirrorverse get put back into the real world. And obviously she cuts that connection, so there isn't like any lingering issues like we saw with Iris and Eva herself. By the looks of it, because Singh and Camilla come back and there's no issues, and same with Iris. But it was weird. Like, Eva gets this happy ending, if you want to call it. She gets just to return to the Mirrorverse, and there seems to be no consequences. Bit odd, because how do they know that she won't come back and do the exact same thing? Like, how do you know she won't go mad again in the Mirrorverse and then go and be like, well, I can sit here and plan. I know what went wrong the first time. Let me go back into the Mirrorverse and plan again. How do we know that won't happen? So maybe she might strike back again. I highly doubt it, because they've sort of done this character for long enough, but they might do it again. I don't know. But one thing that caught me off guard, and I was like, oh, okay, we're only getting at least one episode for now. And that's when the OG Wells leaves Star Labs. Now, I'm 99% sure Tom Cavanagh has filmed episodes past episode 3. So he's in later episodes, I'm pretty sure. But it was surprising that he leaves now. Now, he can travel anywhere and also to any time he wants. And he wants to go back and spend it with Tess Morgan, his wife, obviously before she passes in the incident. So I think he said there's about a 4-year time span there. So he'll relive that, but maybe some issue happens there where maybe he has to come back, or maybe it's a different character played by Tom Cavanaugh that comes into it. I'm not too sure, but I'm 99% sure he filmed episodes after episode 3, which was this episode. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But I think this was just really bad, and I don't think it was that funny either. Like they said, it was going to be done in a funny way. I personally didn't find it funny. I found it a bit cringe and just like, couldn't have done better. And that was Robot Ralph Dibny. I thought it was really lame and really bad. Maybe that's just me. Maybe because I was so hung up on them using like an actual character on the show, like Grant or Tom Cavanaugh or something to have Ralph transform into, and then he can have say his goodbyes or something. But they just went with Robot Ralph Dibny. Yeah, I thought it was really bad, really bad. But anyway, moving on to the cliffhanger, and this sets up what's coming forward. And we sort of knew that this was coming through both set photos, but also the synopsis they released for episode 5, I think it is, from a couple of days ago. And that's 18 hours earlier when Iris is actually igniting the fusion sphere. It sends out different colored energy and creates the new forces of the Sage Force, which was like the pink-purple color. Sage is... But I think maybe they did... I can't remember what the colors were on the top of the... You'll see it on screen right now. But the names of them are the Sage Force, the Still Force, which was the green one, we know that, and the Strength Force, which is usually red, I think. I think the Strength Force is usually red. Now, it looks to have sent out the Speed Force as well. There isn't just 3, there's 4, and one of them is yellow, which is the Speed Force. So it makes you wonder whether a new speedster or speedsters were created. Maybe one of them is the real Godspeed. That would be something. But also one thing with that, and I'm sure some of you noticed it when you were watching the episode. I noticed it when I was watching the episode and I was like, what is he looking at? And that's the OG Wells. When Iris is doing it, he's looking out the window or something like that. He's looking at what's happening somewhere. He's not looking at Iris. He's not looking at Barry. He's not looking at the rest of Team Flash. He's looking elsewhere. And I'm pretty sure he's looking and seeing all this stuff going on, which weird. Will he come back into it because of that? We'll have to wait and see, because he just goes away after that. So yeah, I don't know if we're going to see, we might get a cliffhanger next week, at the end of next week, but we know Abracadabra is back next week. And I don't know specifically why he shows up. Maybe it's attached to it. I don't know. But in episode 5, we know that we're getting someone connected to one of those new forces. So keep your eyes out for that. But, you know, as I said, overall, this episode wasn't as good as the first 2 episodes. If anything, it was maybe on the worse side of things. I'm not going to say it was terrible. I've seen some people say it was terrible. There was still some good stuff in it. It just felt a bit mushed up together. Like it wasn't one cohesive story. I felt like they, you know, smushed a couple together. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, you know, moving on into the proper season 7. We've now officially ended season 6. So let's look forward to what's coming next. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on this episode. What did you love? What did you hate? Theories, let me know all that in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.